I'll be honest with you. It's beginning to look like I'm not going to get the Tonight Show.
When institutions move from one caretaker to another, there is upheaval in people's lives.
Hey, Trevor. What's up? Could you give me like 20 more minutes?
The internet has changed everything.
We didn't know what we were doing.
And then late night is hit with the biggest challenge it has ever faced.
Time for social distancing. Pack your things and go.
They were always in your home, but now you get to be in theirs.
My first guest tonight, as you can see, is Mr. Bubble.
People were just like, everything in the world sucks right now. I needed this so much.
Just swing for the fences and see how many lives you could ruin.
Something has changed. You can't ignore it.
Stop saying this is not who we are and start asking, what can I do to change it?
Cutting the cord to the cable company or the satellite company is a terrifying prospect.
My presidency is entering the fourth quarter. Interesting stuff happens in the fourth quarter.
Very few people leave the game when they're on top of their game, and that's what Jay Leno did last night.
In 2014, as Leno retired, there was definitely a more dissipated, fractured late-night environment.
This idea of late-night television is evolving. What is television?
You know, streaming services and cable, and people can watch what they want when they want to watch it.
With the advent of the internet, Jimmy Fallon was already writing things that were meant to be consumed in a different manner than the traditional three-network late-night way.
So we've done late night probably about 5 years. I'm so happy at 12:30. I'm happy following Jay Leno. He was always great to me.
By the time Jay is leaving in 2014, everybody expects that Jimmy Fallon is going to get The Tonight Show, especially because Lorne Michaels is now running The Tonight Show, and he's going to bring his guy, Jimmy Fallon, who's doing the 12:30 show at this point, along with him.
I think he's just a brilliant performer. Aside from the jokes, you have to have charm. And I think that's the #1 thing for a late-night host.
Then Jay called me, and he goes, so I'm thinking about maybe stepping down soon. And I go, whenever you want to do it, let's do it the right way. We should do a sketch.
In the news, all they do is say, I'm replacing you. They think I can woo the demo.
When we took over The Tonight Show, I said, could we maybe think about bringing The Tonight Show back to where it began, which is New York City.
It's where Johnny had started the show. Before that, Steve Allen had done The Tonight Show there. You know, late night TV started in that studio.
And that was a brilliant thing. Update the sound, update the lighting, a new design for an ongoing tradition.
I'm lucky to say my parents are still here with us. They're here tonight. They're here to see me, Mom and Dad. Hey, I love you guys. Remember how proud you were when I graduated high school? That was a big deal. Yeah, that was giant. Thanks for being here, you guys. I love you. I know, Dad. My dad heckles me from the audience. He goes, we paid a lot of money for that school. Did not pay a lot of money. It was a public high school. He didn't pay a lot of money. That's right. Your son is hosting the first ever his Tonight Show. It might not go well. Zip it.
Jimmy Fallon is so different than all the other hosts. He really is there as an entertainer. He came out of sketch comedy. He loves characters.
And Jimmy's out there doing what in a lot of ways is almost a variety show.
Pick him up!
He also likes to play games with his guests. And this goes back to what Steve Allen was doing with his guests.
Come on, Jimmy!
The thing that I think about with Johnny and with Steve Allen and Jack Parr, if they could only see what we're doing with The Tonight Show, and I think they'd be really proud.
I got my tight pants, I got my tight pants, I got my tight pants on. Everybody looking at me.
They would have loved that the internet exists, because they would do a bit and it would air once, and then either they talked about it the next day, but they just talked about it. You couldn't see it. Thank you, kids with mohawks, for letting us know how important it is to your parents that we think they're cool.
I think that now the morning after audience is important because you can sort of see things Jimmy does on YouTube.
The show had a tremendous start, and then we just kept building and building and building.
Thank you, Jimmy Fallon, for taking over The Tonight Show at 11:30 so I could take over Late Night at 12:30.
When Lauren called me to say that it was the next step for me, it was probably one of the few things that made sense after everything I'd done at SNL. A man in Hawaii who came face to face with a shark while surfing survived by punching the shark in the face. Meanwhile, I saw a cockroach in my bathroom, and now I shower at the gym. I liked being head writer. I liked being a Weekend Update anchor, but I had never thought about what I would do next. The biggest difference I knew was going to be wanting to show everybody I could do a different thing than Weekend Update. You saw me sit, but now watch this. I can also stand. Prepare to have your minds blown. While Taylor Swift, am I saying that right? New 911 texting services. I'm gonna just keep saying words wrong.
In the very first shows, there was some awkwardness, but I never doubted that he would figure it out.
I feel as though I got better at it, but I certainly wasn't the best at it. And so it seems silly to run away from the thing that I had spent the first half of my career working on. And so I sat back down.
In that case, let's get to the news.
I remember watching the first episode when he first did the Desk-a-log, and he came alive. His face came alive, and you knew he'd figured it out.
In 2014, new people were coming in. There was a big shift in the generations.
The culture had fragmented, which had an impact both on the size of the audience and also on the shows. It became more difficult to make massive stars in the culture.
When you have 7 of something, I don't know if it's the same when you only have 1.
Earlier today, I phoned Leslie Moonves and I said, Leslie, it's been great. You've been great. The network has been great, but I'm retiring.
This is really?
Yep.
This is true. This is, you actually did this?
Yes, I did.
Wow.
The thought of David Letterman retiring, leaving, there was a healthy denial until it was real because he was the jewel in the crown.
For God's sakes, the man put a camera on a monkey. It seems so simple now.
Everything I learned about late night television, I learned from watching David Letterman.
And in the last couple months, you had every great star who'd been on the show came and paid tribute.
The only thing I have left to do for the last time on a television program, thank you and good night.
He was the voice of the true generation and reinvented television for that generation.
This man has influenced every host who came after him, and even a few who came before him. He's that good. And I gotta tell you, I do not envy whoever they try to put in that chair.
When we were making decisions about who was going to take over after Dave, the pressure was enormous. I really only knew a world with David Letterman. It was scary.
Someone leaves. There's always someone who can fit into their shoes. There's none of us that's irreplaceable.
The conversation was always about finding the very best person. And Stephen was always one of the most innovative and freshest voices in the comedy landscape.
And in fact, Colbert's manager had deliberately timed the last 2 or 3 of his contracts to coincide with Letterman's.
Stephen Colbert, who was a correspondent on The Daily Show, who then hosted the ironic Colbert Report.
Can you imagine what would have happened to America if we hadn't gone to war in Vietnam? That means no Forrest Gump, and therefore no Bubba Gump Shrimp Shack mac and cheese.
Stephen had great insight as to what kind of content they should design. It has to be a little noisier. It has to be provocative in order for it to be shared and ultimately go viral.
So now you really do have a sweeping change by 2015. Colbert is preparing to take over for Letterman. His CBS premiere is 3 months away.
Jimmy Fallon gets The Tonight Show and is #1 in late night now.
And Jimmy Kimmel has moved up to 11:35, and he's really finding his voice. And there's a presidential election coming up.
I am running for president of the United States.
People are already trying to figure out what to call Bill Clinton if Hillary is elected president. Yeah. So far, the most popular choices are the first man, the first husband, and that naked guy running across the South Lawn.
I'm a candidate for president of the United States.
America needs a bold new vision. It's time for the country to make a decision.
Ladies and gentlemen, my father, Donald J. Trump.
A billionaire vanity candidate taking the escalator to the White House.
When Donald Trump announced his candidacy, Jon Stewart seemed over the moon.
Trump is the part of your brain that's like at 3 a.m. going, let's go take a in a mailbox.
I was the last correspondent hired by Jon.
Hassan Minaj. Hassan! Thank you for joining us.
I had learned so much from Jon for the 1.5 to 2 years I was there, and then he called me to his office, and he said, I think it's that time for me to leave the show.
I got maybe 4 or 5 more years with the kids before they really don't want anything to do with me.
Yeah.
And I'm just not there. You know, you can't go 9 to 9 for 16 years and think, you know, you're going to be able to tell them to not smoke pot. Like, you can't just show up at 9 p.m. and be like, don't get high. All right, good night, sweetie.
When Jon decided to leave the show, America had a hissy fit. What are we going to do? What's going to happen?
Oh my God, Jon Stewart left at the exact wrong time. But I don't know that anybody could have predicted, you know, not only what happened in the world and politics, but also what happened to the media landscape.
It still feels like a dream a little bit. And walking around the building today, nobody was making eye contact. Because I think there's so much love and pride filling the building right now that we just don't want to drown it.
He was incredibly generous and authentic, and I totally understood why he became who he became.
So I say to you tonight, friends, the best defense against bullshit is vigilance. So if you smell something, say something.
We've certainly been very happy to retain Stephen Colbert and put him on The Daily Show.
Is there a party or anything? Because I brought a lot of people from CBS, and I told them that I know you.
Yes.
Why wouldn't he leave? Gets his own show on network television. He's got a band. He's got his own theater.
New York City, it's Stephen Colbert!
Thank you for all joining me for my first episode of The Late Show With, starring Stephen Colbert.
It is a very specific trial by fire when you're taking over for David Letterman. And I don't care how funny you might have been, you're now trying to gain the trust and acceptance, and most importantly, the laughs of the people who are used to somebody else.
This is the first time that I've just been myself. When I got the offer to do this show, I said, you know, I'm an actor. If I go take that gig, that'll be the first thing I ever do in my career that's not acting.
Having been on Comedy Central, having a character, he himself was somewhat removed from the audience. But when you are the host of a late night show, you are present in some of the most intimate situations of people's lives. That takes time to get comfortable with.
I'd like to do something with you. It's a new segment we're calling Big Questions with Even Bigger Stars.
It was a little strange. People weren't used to having Colbert speak to them as him and not as the persona. So some of his fans weren't very happy.
When he first got to CBS, I think they told him, we don't want you to be political. You got to be a song and dance man and, you know, and give them what they want.
A lot of my emotional state was, how do you do this now? That was sort of the emotional state, and you could see that. I just didn't know how to use me.
Getting to The Daily Show was an interesting journey for me. I was touring in Europe. My phone rang. It was an American number, I had no clue. And I answered it, and the voice on the other side said, hi, Trevor, this is Jon Stewart. I host a little show called The Daily Show in America. I think you'd be a good addition to the show. And I said, oh, that's really wonderful, but no thank you. And he said, so you're saying no? Okay, I didn't expect that. And I mean, in hindsight, That was the dumbest thing I could have ever done.
We're really delighted that you're going to be joining us, and I know that you flew in, I guess, yesterday from South Africa.
Yeah, I just flew in, and boy, are my arms tired.
Okay. All right there, oldie but a goodie. Very nice.
No, seriously. I've been holding my arms like this since I got here. Yeah. I never thought I'd be more afraid of police in America than in South Africa. It kind of makes me a little nostalgic for the old days back home. And I came back a little bit later, maybe it was a month or two later, and I did it again. And then he announced he was leaving.
After Jon Stewart, we did not have an air in place.
Yeah, you know, executives are scared. They want to get it right instantly. They want it to be a hit right now.
Sam B didn't seem interested in an everyday thing. Amy Poehler was on our list, but we actually had real discussions with Amy Schumer, and we blinked on John Oliver and let him go to HBO.
When discussions were going around about who would host the show, Jon Stewart said to me, I think you should do it. That's when the whirlwind began.
Trevor had done very little up to that point. He had only done a couple of Daily Show spots.
I was like, yeah, I'll put my name in the hat. I thought there was no chance in hell I would be chosen to host it.
But he just seemed to have the intelligence, the poise, a point of view, a grasp of global politics, and he just felt like he could do it.
Growing up in the dusty streets of South Africa, I never dreamed that I would one day have, well, two things, really. An indoor toilet and a job as host of The Daily Show. So when I got to The Daily Show, the first and most important thing for me to do was not crash the white people's car. Jon Stewart was coming into their living room every single night. And now there's some random South African who's walking into your living room who you didn't invite, you didn't vote for, you didn't get to choose. Now, seeing as this is my first show, we wanted to start it off with something a little light. So here we go, Syria.
I mean, I'm sure Trevor Noah struck a lot of people as a gigantic missed opportunity. I mean, very talented guy, but not even an American guy.
There was articles written at the time, they should just cancel The Daily Show. I remember having a conversation with him. I go, Trevor, aren't you nervous? And he goes, hey, if this all doesn't work out, I can always fall back on poverty. Isn't that the best response?
It was a firestorm, the likes of which I've never experienced. The most important thing for me was I was never trying to be a clone of Jon Stewart. And I think that's one of the things Jon liked about me. One thing that I really pushed was getting The Daily Show online. Jon did not care about having the show be online. And I said, why? Where are we on Facebook? Where are we on Instagram? Where are we on Twitter? And so for me, what's great is now we can interact with a larger audience. And with it comes more responsibility because I've learned to have this show that was authentically funny because it gave a voice to people who are funny from different walks of life.
When I look at like John Oliver and Samantha B and Trevor Noah, they all got to go to a thing I like to call Jon Stewart University, learning from the guy who pioneered one of the greatest late night talk shows of all time.
When the late night landscape really changed, 2014, 2015, people that weren't American took over late night. Trevor Noah, John Oliver, Samantha B. When you're outside of the United States, you could almost see the United States better than the United States can see itself.
Our main story tonight is government surveillance. And
John Oliver is giving an actual concluding argument of a prosecutor. He's made the case and he's summing it up for the jury.
And I realise most people would rather have a conversation about literally any other topic, including, is my smartphone giving me cancer, to which the answer is probably, or do goldfish suffer from depression, to which the answer is yes, but very briefly.
What's going on those shows like The Daily Show and John Oliver and Samantha B is investigative comedy, every bit as much as investigative journalism. And that is not something that late night television used to be.
This is hard for me. You know, I never thought I'd be standing on a stage. Oh, God.
If I had to describe Samantha B in like 3 words, it would be fearless, important, boss.
Sentient caps lock button Donald Trump forgot to bring his nouns to the debate.
Samantha B was a sketch comedy comedian in Toronto.
She was at The Daily Show for over 10 years. Her comedic timing, her POV, her body language.
I am female as
We needed a woman's perspective in late night that was that acerbic and biting and hilarious.
And I like that. You know, all of these folks are really honing all of these skills, because they are skills. It's an art form. Everybody thinks it's easy, and it really isn't.
And there's Steven just foundering, and it was bad.
Thanks, Boomer. Let's do this.
He did a show after the Super Bowl in order to enhance his exposure. But it just didn't work.
After every Super Bowl, I like to work off some of that nacho weight by tossing around the old pigskin.
There was zero sustained bump. For CBS executives, that was like, okay, we really have a problem here.
Ladies and gentlemen, Craig Ferguson.
Craig Ferguson followed David Letterman on CBS for 10 years. And Craig left a little unexpectedly.
Hey, I'd done more of that, I probably wouldn't have quit.
That's when the real fun began. The year of transition, making decisions about who's going to take the 12:30 slot was one of the single most challenging things I'd ever faced.
The wide world thinks, here's an opportunity to finally name a woman. Amy Poehler? Tina Fey?
There were conversations about women. I am a woman, so I was wanting to have a woman in late night. But James Corden is a unicorn. I saw him on Broadway, laugh out loud funny. You knew this was somebody special. It had a little bit more of a global feel, and we thought maybe that can translate to a bigger international audience as well.
Hello, everyone. I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh, look, Andy Richter's got his own show.
I remember there was headlines out here saying, who the F is James Corden?
However shocked you are that I am doing this job, you will never be as shocked as I am. We had been on the air a month, and I couldn't get back in the building because the guy didn't know that we were even making a show here. And just over there on the side of the studio, there's like a huge billboard that says The Late Late Show with James Corden with my face on it. I was going, no, look, there. And I promise you, he went like this. No, I don't see it. And, you know, that's where we were starting from.
One change that coincided with James's arrival was how significant pushing digital content was.
We said, we don't want to make a show that's for 12:37 at night. We're going to look at the primetime shows as our competition. We're going to look at breakfast news as our competition.
And so we needed to control relevancy. The way to do that was to make pieces that could travel around on the internet and that people could find and watch in chunks.
And we were like, what can we do? We're in Los Angeles. All anyone seems to talk about is the traffic. Is there a thing where, like, we pick people up to help James get to work? And what if it's the biggest singers in the world and we sing along to their songs the way that people sing along in the morning on the radio? And we just went, carpool karaoke. And we went, well, that feels like a thing. It was inconceivable to me that that will be the most viewed clip online in the history of late night television ever.
You are here, and I'm terrified.
James Corden's arrival on American television truly changed the way people watched and consumed late night for all time.
There was a feeling at CBS that Stephen Colbert was dragging down James Corden, that James Corden could be even bigger if he was on before Stephen Colbert. And they were talking about flipping those shows.
Fallon was killing him in the young adult ratings and even beating him among total viewers.
By March 2016, Stephen Colbert told me he was just so exhausted. His life was just miserable.
We're working longer hours than ever, and the only break most of us get is a little extra sleep on the weekends, which I use to stress dream about work.
I just think he wasn't comfortable. So CBS said, we need to get him a showrunner so Stephen can concentrate on the comedy.
And so CBS executives set up drinks for Colbert and Chris Licht.
I knew Chris from Morning News. Chris was a welcome rival, a very talented guy.
And the deal they make is Chris will not tell Steven how to do comedy, and Steven will not tell Chris how to produce a TV show.
We've been off for a week. Did you have a good week off?
Had a great week off, man.
Me too. But it's great to be back because I miss these people. You know, one of the great things that Chris brought to us is that he has a brilliant eye for process and keeping people in their own lanes. And once we knew how to do that, we could start doing the show that we wanted to do.
The show looked better. It has rhythm. And personally, Steven is outraged by the things going on in politics, particularly Donald Trump.
He did start to find his footing with the political conventions of 2016.
I've arrived at the 2016 Republican National Hungry for Power Games.
He had a character that was a send-up of Stanley Tucci's character from the Hunger Games.
The red carpet, of course, is here to hide the rivers of blood that will eventually pour down from the cornucopia.
I mean, that was Steven's sweet spot.
And so he brings back point-of-view comedy. And Jimmy Fallon doesn't do that.
Thank you. President Obama's birth certificate. He used to carry you around to prove he was American. Now he needs to carry you around to prove he's only 54.
Jimmy Fallon, I think his appeal is that he is not challenging. Sometimes we just want to hang out with our goofy little brother and, like, play goofy games.
I like riding the waves and really experiencing all of it. To have the sitting president of the United States do a bit with you, you know, it's a big deal. I wrote in this bit where we're talking about Rihanna, and I wanted you to go like, work, 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 work. And he goes, what, why do you have me say it like that? Why can't I go like, work, 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 work? No, I go, stop it. You have 2 months left. Don't mess this up.
Work, 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 work.
And that's it. And you go, oh, yeah. And drop the mic.
The summer of 2016. Jimmy Fallon is a very sort of joyful, relatable person.
I've been a good boy.
But he's sort of at sea in this climate because he's not a political animal like Stephen Colbert.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Donald Trump.
And when Trump came in, suddenly this guy that was having all this fun wasn't really in his element anymore.
Can I mess your hair up? Donald, this is getting real.
It's an amazing movement all over the country. It's been incredible. So
it's in the throes of the 2016 presidential election. And Jimmy Fallon does what every late night host has done for decades. One of the major candidates come on his show and to make the person look kind of fun and playful.
Can I mess your hair up?
But what Jimmy Fallon didn't understand was that the rules of late night had changed.
Go ahead with my hairspray.
People point to the moment where Jimmy Fallon mussed Trump's hair as this pivotal moment of Fallon humanizing Trump. I think that people were definitely angry at the idea of having him on.
Jimmy Fallon faces criticism he has never had before, and his ratings start to slide.
Is there anything to people giving you a hard time for being too soft on Trump with your questions?
Yeah, I'm never. I mean, have you seen my show? No. I'm never too hard on anyone. Vote, 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 vote.
In less than 24 hours, the election will be over. Thank God.
Stephen Colbert, Trevor Noah, they decide to do live election night shows.
I remember thinking, Hillary Clinton is going to become president, and it will be the most boring time in politics.
Welcome to my live election night special on Showtime. I am your host, Stephen Colbert.
We'll also be getting updates on the results from around the country.
They are calling the state of Ohio for Donald Trump.
He was winning all the counties that mattered. He was winning the Electoral College.
Trump won Florida. What I was trying to do that night was capture just the frustration or the stress of the country.
What the is happening?
And we're like, oh, Donald Trump is going to be the president.
Any good news?
You can smoke weed in Massachusetts.
I remember thinking, wow, like, it's real now. That moment for me was when The Daily Show with Trevor Noah started. You can be dejected, you can be sad, but I will say this, don't let it turn into fear, because that is the thing that Donald Trump has used to get his side to do something that they never should have done.
We did 14 live shows or something before we ever did the live election night show. So we were ready for that night in every way other than what happened.
And so when Chris Lick breaks this news to Stephen that Trump has won, Chris tells him, just be yourself.
So how did our politics get so poisonous? I think it's because we overdosed, especially this year. We drank too much of the poison.
And what Stephen did was what late night hosts have become accustomed to do. Talk us through how to deal with something that we might not be comfortable with.
Get out there, kiss a Democrat, go hug a Republican, give a libertarian a reach around. I don't care. The election is over. You survived. Good night, and may God bless America.
When the show was over, Chris said, that was raw. That was real. And I said, it was absolutely emotionally true. Now I know how to do this show.
My mom was in India at the time, and she called me to ask me, hey, am I going to be able to get back into the country?
And there are a lot of people telling me, hey, man, don't worry. Trump's not really going to ban all Muslims. But I don't know, man. That is my mom. And I need her back home because I love her, and she owes me $300.
Barbara Boxer, who came on my show after election, we thought we were going to be celebrating, and I could barely keep it together.
I guess the message that I want to spread out to other women is exactly what you're saying, is not to give up. Sorry, I hate crying on camera, but
we were all stunned. And it was so many people to this day come up to me and say, God, it was so nice to see somebody else in so much pain the day after that happened.
Mr. Trump, your presidency, I love your presidency. I call it disgrace the nation.
Watching Stephen respond to what was happening in the country was one of the happiest moments of my life.
Hey, Senate, my dog accomplished more than you this week when it rolled over and licked its nuts.
Today, if you're not talking about politics in a tough and insightful way, you're losing viewers. And this would be arguably the inverse of what it was like during the Carson era.
Last night was the biggest mass shooting in United States history. That's a record that's been set twice in just the 2.5 years that I've been living in America.
These hosts are part of the political and cultural conversation.
That resonates with people who maybe feel like they can't express exactly how they're feeling, and so they can say, yes, that is also how I feel.
A little over a week ago on Friday, April 21st, my wife, Molly, gave birth to a boy, a baby boy. His name is William John Kimmer.
The monologue about my son's operation, I never thought of it as a television moment.
And on Monday morning, Dr. Starnes opened his chest and fixed one of the 2 defects in his heart. This is what he looked like on Monday, but this is what he looked like yesterday.
When something bad happens to me, I try to make something good out of it. And it just so happened that a vote was happening with American health care and Obamacare.
No parent should ever have to decide if they can afford to save their child's life. It just shouldn't happen.
A lot of people watched it, and a lot of people, Republican and Democrat, responded to it.
So it just showed late night becomes the place where the hosts are there to help us process America.
I believe in my heart that Billy and Jimmy were significant parts of keeping the Affordable Care Act.
And a lot of things are happening in America that need processing.
The internet has changed everything. If you do something that's great, people are going to see it.
The old pathway of having to have written for the Harvard Lampoon to work in late night is kind of dead and gone.
It's like growing up, I always wanted a talk show, but I couldn't get one. So I started going out with YouTube, and suddenly NBC was like, dang, she's fine as hell.
NBC was looking to bring in a different kind of late night host.
Carson Daly's show Last Call was on at 1:35 in the morning.
Good evening, I'm Carson Daly. Welcome to the 2000th and, yes, final episode of Last Call.
And then in 2019, he decided to move on, and that's when NBC turned to Lily Singh.
Mom, look, I need these pens.
Lily Singh coming from YouTube with 14 million fans and counting who already love her, who already want her style of comedy.
It's not just about putting a square peg into a round hole, no. It's thinking, oh, I have this square peg. Let me create a square hole for this peg. Let me create something authentic.
These are two of our writers, Amber and Jenny.
I'm black. And I'm gay. And we're both women.
And I'm not.
There have been a lot of things we've done on the show that I'm really proud of. But having, you know, Amber and Jenny do jokes Seth can't tell, that's something that makes me really happy.
The Chinese government recently shut down the country's most popular lesbian dating app.
A lesbian dating app is like a regular dating app, except you swipe like this.
So for half a century, the gatekeeper for late night was a broadcast network. And that just is not the case anymore. You find your own gate and break through it.
Today, I am proud to announce that I will be forming an exploratory committee to be the first guest on Jesus and Mero.
That's right. That's right. That's right. We're the exploratory committee. We actually the building. That's right.
You know, we're two regular dudes from the Bronx. We just get more human interviews from people.
Mm-hmm. What's the resale on this?
$4,500. AKA 2 Honda Civics in the Bronx.
It's just a status thing?
It's a flex.
It's a flex. Are you not a big flexer? No. Okay.
Most late night hosts, it's just one person doing their one thing, but we've got two, and their chemistry and their ability to riff off each other catapulted them into need to hear commentary.
And for season 2, we had to do it the right way and bring in the MJ of late night.
Give it up for the talk show god! David Letterman in the house! Yeah!
There's no better proof that Desus and Mero have touched a real creative nerve than the fact that they book David Letterman as a guest, the most respected guy in late night for breaking the form and doing original work.
Okay, what would you like, ma'am?
I told you, the 3 cheese beef belt.
And now he's saying it about Desus and Mero.
We are in the office with the Bronx Borough President, bro. And we're not in trouble. Is that the key to the Bronx? Yeah. Does that like open every door in the Bronx, has it, or is that like a Metro card?
It opens a few. Yeah? Yeah. I'm glad that you guys are here. Beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
I thought, these guys, this is it. This is the future. This is the way it ought to be. And it makes me so happy that it has come to pass that way for both of you.
This is, bro.
Wow.
Bro.
Wow.
So we kick off 2020, and late night was totally preoccupied with Trump's impeachment.
Trump will be on trial for multiple crimes as his presidency goes down multiple
toilets. Soon, we will find out if breaking the law is illegal.
We'll find out.
And then, out of the blue, late night television is hit with the most disruptive event in its entire history.
The coronavirus has quickly turned from a regional concern in China to an international sensation.
We started hearing about coronavirus in February 2020 as a thing, and everyone was saying, oh, it's like the flu, it's not a big deal.
That's right. Japan has canceled school for a month. Quick, America, now's your chance to catch up in math. Come on.
I went to our production team, and I said, hey, do you guys have an emergency backup plan for, like, if we all have to go home or not have an audience?
Steve Allen started the original Tonight Show. He was just playing piano. That's what these shows used to be.
Wow.
and can be again. Thanks to coronavirus.
Time for social distancing. Pack your things and go. Just know that I'll be waiting for you to come back to the show.
We thought we were just saying goodbye to the audience. We should have said goodbye to the studio.
You play something and I'll have a sip of bourbon. You can stop now.
Having those hosts on late night provides a sense of normalcy for a lot of people, but when they're forced to shut down altogether, I think it really kind of shook Americans.
I live close to a hospital, and next to the hospital were these tents where they kept dead bodies because there was no more room in the morgue. It knocked the comedy out of me to see that. What got me back in was being like, oh, well, if I feel this way, a lot of other people feel this way, so I better get back to work.
I'm in a room in my house. My camera operator is my wife.
Hi.
Hi, honey. Thank you for doing this.
Shout out to YouTubers who've been doing this for a long time and making us pros look like real dopes this week.
The internet was what late night was, which is experimental.
It forces you to find new ways to be funny.
Oh, Conan. Andy, yeah. Oh, good to see you, buddy.
We were challenged to make the show in a new way.
If I'm gonna cut my hair at my own house, I want the authentic black barbershop experience. Look what else I got, man. I got that second phone y'all be having, so you can talk to a girl while you cutting hair. Yeah, so what's going on, man?
Roy, stop it.
Please welcome to A Late Show, Daniel Radcliffe. Thank you so much for doing this. Can't hear a word, but you look very nice.
And you can see as each episode goes, the video quality gets better, the sound quality gets better.
So what COVID did was it pushed forward the evolution of late night television.
Franny, do you want to play the drums?
No.
Okay, perfect.
There's a much more intimate feel, a connection.
My first guest tonight, as you can see, is Mr. Bubble.
Goodbye, everybody.
And that is bringing together the streaming era with the whole history of late night.
Dr. Fauci, thank you so much for joining us on the Daily Social Distancing Show. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. No, very well.
It became clear that late night hosts realized that it was their civic duty to put out correct information about what was going on with the pandemic, because it wasn't going to happen from the White House.
Looks like by April, in theory, when it gets a little warmer, it miraculously goes away. I hope that's true.
People needed to know exactly what's going on, how to protect themselves.
And this is not it either. This ain't it. This ain't it. You know what I'm saying? It's supposed to go over your nose and your mouth.
Late night was really kind of giving us a chance to still have a sense of humor about things, despite the fact that it was so serious.
Sam Jackson with a new poem, and I'll take it away, Sam.
Wash your hands, stop touching your face, and stay the at home.